Yo ho ho, Dom Mafia. Welcome to yet another edition of the Dom Mafia Report. As always, your host, Dan Mitchell. And I know exactly what is going through your mind right now. Dan, you f***ing scumbag. You're wearing the exact same shirt you wore last video. Take a f***ing shower. Well, hate to burst your bubble there, you smarty pantses. But sometimes on Tuesday nights, I just like to sit in my apartment and go on ahead and just make several videos at once. I'm not going to be changing my shirt for each and every single video. I don't have time for that. That's how I'm pumping out that juicy, fat-ass content for you, okay? Get off my back. And all jokes aside, guys, you read the title of this video. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. I mean, maybe some of you guys have been, wallowing in sorrow for your football team not making it to the Super Bowl. Or maybe your team ended up getting beat by Tom Brady himself, which is always a deep, deep cut. As a Bills fan, trust me, I know how it feels, but definitely not on that stage. The majority of you know that I'm a Bills fan. If you're new here, you're just learning this. Every time I do off-season videos like this, I'm thinking about this from a Buffalo Bills perspective. However, if I wanted to base this off the Buffalo Bills, this video would be about 30 seconds, because frankly, we are in cap space hell. And I know a lot of your teams are as well, but some of you guys are flush with cash. And so I'm going to go through some of these free agent running backs that I think would make a tremendous addition, not only to the Buffalo Bills, but your team as well, just so we can start getting an idea of this overall free agent class. Because, guys, it is stacked. But right before we dive into it, I always like throwing that reminder out there. Make sure you follow me on all of my social media platforms. It's including Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I just started TikTok, and I put out a bunch of NFL meme/parody videos. I objectively think they're pretty funny, and a lot of people do as well. If that's your cup of tea, go check that out. On Twitter, I talk football with just about anybody that tweets at me, and on Instagram, I just post pictures and dumbass stories. So in case you're ever trying to feel better about yourself, you can follow me there as well. So yeah, Dumb Mafia, without further ado, let's go on ahead and just dive into this list. First up is Marlon Mack. Now, this was a name that really hasn't been floated around a lot, especially with some of the bigger names that are out there. Marlon Mack was the Colts' #1 running back up until about the first half of week 1 for this team. He ended up tearing his Achilles, and he was out for the remainder of the 2020 season, hence bringing in Jonathan Taylor. When he does hit the market, he is only 24 years old. He's that north-south running style that a lot of teams love. If you're not really big into the whole reception-focused back, just a straight-up north-south runner. And so in 2019, he ran for over 1,091 yards, 82 reception yards. He was more of a receiving back in his early days. Maybe it just had to do with the fact that the Colts wanted to transition back into strictly a ground and pound back, but statistically, he has proven that he is able to do both. And so the kicker is that his market value is relatively low, especially coming off of that injury. While it's not on Spot Track at this moment, if I was a gambling man, I would say it's going to be close to about $2 to $3 million a year. Now, as far as Marlon Mack is concerned, it sucks that he ended up getting that injury. But really, when it comes down to it, when you're coming off of an injury, this is going to be a very affordable 1-year type of deal for any team that wants to go on ahead and make the move. From the Buffalo Bills side of things, while I think that we could afford him, he's not the type of running back we're looking for. I think we're looking for somebody that is either #1, an absolute bulldozer that can go on ahead and just get 7 or 8 yards per carry whenever the hell he wants, and more predominantly a receiving back for Josh Allen. But for all of you other fans, do me a favor, leave a comment and tell me whether or not that Marlon Mack would make sense for your team. #2, James White. And so it's funny because back in the day, it seemed like James White was a lot more of a weapon to the Patriots right up until this year. It's funny because he ended up playing about 14 games, but we all know James White as primarily a receiving back. The best part about this guy is that while he is 29 years old, he is also a very, very affordable running back option for any team here. $3 million straight up per year. That's exactly what Spot Track is calling for him. And for the most part, he's remained relatively healthy. His entire career, the least amount of games he has ever played in a season has been 14 games, so you know he's consistent, he can stay healthy. He is that receiving back, and so a lot of people are coveting, especially since the NFL is slowly starting to transition into a pass-first type league. And so his stats the past couple of years have been in 2020, 121 rush yards, 375 receiving yards. In 2019, 263 rush yards, 645 reception yards. And in 2018, the Patriots Super Bowl year, 425 rush yards and 751 receiving yards. So like I said, this guy, he is an absolute weapon when it comes to the passing game. So say, for example, that you have no issue with your running back being able to run the ball and you're simply looking for another weapon that could pretty much make a huge impact in the passing game. James White is going to be the guy. 29 years old or not. From a Buffalo Bills fan perspective, he's one I significantly have my eye on, and I think that he would be a very cheap option, especially compared to some of the guys that we're about to be running into right now. And so say, for example, that you think he would make a good asset on your team, or Bills fans as well. Do me a favor, leave a comment why. And so next up, James Conner from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, don't get me wrong. In my opinion, if I were to blame anything why the Pittsburgh Steelers completely fell apart after going 11-0, a lot of that had to do with the fact that they could not run the damn ball. And maybe some blame has to go to James Conner. Maybe it has to do with the run blocking. I'm not necessarily sure. But this year, he's coming off 729 yards on the ground. His market value is currently at about $5.4 million. Probably has to do with the fact that he is 25 years old. He's still relatively young. But this guy has had injury issues. He really, really has. His last 3 years, in 2020, like I just said, he put up 729 yards on the ground, 215 receiving, 464 yards on the ground, and 251 receiving yards in 2019, 6 games that year. And then in 2018, 973 yards on the ground and 497 receiving yards. Now, I think this guy might be an interesting dark horse type of running back that could perhaps go to a different team and maybe just produce a lot better in a different offensive scheme. But I think a lot of the blame probably had to do with James Conner with that Steelers downfall. I mean, not being able to run the ball. And I mean, there's really only so many places you can point your fingers at this point. And I mean, everyone looks at 2018 with that Steelers offense. And so that was the year when Le'Veon Bell ended up sitting out because he wanted to get paid. I think that the Steelers' offensive line at that point legitimately was just built for a Le'Veon Bell type running back. They really invested heavily in being able to run block, and they had their offensive linemen at their best. They were much younger. They had way older pieces that were built around a running back like Le'Veon Bell, hence why James Conner was so effective that year, and hence why he ended up slowly declining those next 2 years. So I think James Conner might be intriguing. From a Bills fan perspective, he's not going to be my guy, especially at $5.4 million. No way. And so next up on the list is Kenyan Drake. He spent the majority of his career in Miami, but then ended up moving to the Arizona Cardinals. $8.3 million market value at 27 years old. His last 3 years in stats were 955 on the ground, 137 reception yards in 2020, 817 on the ground, 345 reception in 2019, and 535 on the ground and 477 reception yards in 2018. And so as far as Kenyan Drake is concerned, I know that he was a disappointment to a lot of fantasy squads this year. And I mean, he's not like the most attractive running back from a Bills fan perspective. I mean, I really don't see trying to justify $8.3 million per year. But I mean, say for example that your team, like I said, is just, swimming in cap space, it could make sense, especially if you're trying to go on ahead and you're trying to target these different position groups that would make your team better. I mean, definitely Drake's going to find a team, but I mean, in my opinion, I think he's a bit overvalued for me. Next up is Chris Carson. Let me be completely honest with you right before I even start diving into, his age, his market value, and stats. I want this guy real damn bad from a Buffalo Bills perspective. Now, say, for example, that we think it's absolutely impossible for us to pick up Najee Harris or Travis Etienne in the draft in the first round, which it's looking like it's going to be a little difficult without sending off some very valuable draft capital. Chris Carson's the dude that I want, okay? This guy, his market value is sitting at $7.4 million per year, which is really not that bad. He's sitting at 26 years old. I'm pretty sure he'll be 27 before 2021 rolls around. The past 3 years, 681 yards on the ground and 287 receiving yards. He did miss 4 games total this year, and in my opinion, the games he did end up playing after coming off of that injury, he was nowhere near 100%. The year prior, in 2019, 1,230 yards on the ground and 266 receiving yards. And then the year before that, 1,151 yards on the ground and 163 yards receiving. I mean, this guy lit up fantasy boards for each and every single squad that I ever had him on, and he was lighting up the actual football field as well. He was Russell Wilson's one of his favorite targets in the red zone. And I mean, this guy could be an absolute dream to anybody that is not only looking for a running back, but is frankly looking for a fucking weapon. I mean, this guy is an absolute monster. And if there's any free agent running back that I think when it comes down to his market value, his age, and his overall stats, I think Chris Carson is one of the better running backs in this complete free agent perspective. So definitely sound off in the comments and tell me what you think. And so last but not least, Bills fans, listen, I'm sorry. I know that you're going to be like, yo, like we need to go after this guy. It's frankly not fucking happening. It's Aaron Jones. This guy is the best free agent that is in the entire free agent class. And trust me, he's going to require a damn hefty penny, okay? SpotTrack is essentially saying that Aaron Jones is going to worth close to $14.6 million per year, sitting at 26 years old. Everyone talks about how much money Dalvin Cook ended up getting paid. According to SpotTrack, Aaron Jones is going to call for a contract very similar, if not even a little bit more. And so his last 3 years, he put up 1,104 yards on the ground, 355 receiving, 1,084 on the ground, 474 yards receiving, and then in 2018, 728 on the ground and 206 receiving. I mean, this guy is an absolute dynamic running back, and whatever team he goes on, he's gonna be a boss. I have a feeling that he's gonna want to go to a team where he could truly be the featured back. I mean, he was on a team with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league, reigning MVP. So, I mean, you knew that he was going to pass the ball a bit. If Aaron Jones goes to a team, say, with a rookie quarterback that desperately needs a solid running game, somebody that could be the number one back in offense carried on the back of a running back, then, I mean, he's going to earn each and every single penny of that $14.6 million per year contract. Now, some news outlets are trying to predict that he's going to go to the Miami Dolphins. I fucking really hope not. Say that does happen. I think that would be a good fit for that team, especially with Tua being a younger guy and the Miami Dolphins who struggled with the run in the year 2020. And ladies and gentlemen, trust me, there are several other names that are out there. I mean, with Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette, who in my opinion is going to be a bit too expensive for a lot of teams with really not a whole lot of proof as far as injury history and as far as overall production. There are several names that you could be looking at. I highly recommend checking out SpotTrack and the free agent page. You'll be able to see each and every single free agent that is in the entire league at this point, and you can make all these estimations of who you think your team should go for, judging off of your particular cap space. I'll make sure to put that link in my description. It's not a sponsored video. I just absolutely love that website. Dom Mafia, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another edition of the Dom Mafia Report. If you're new here, make sure to smash the fuck out of that like button, like this video, and tell a friend. And right before I let you go, always remember, let's go Buffalo.